This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and I needed a way to combine my two interests, my love of basketball and fantasy books. Therefore, you have NBA stars as fantasy book character comparisons. I will say this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be initially. The comparisons don't just kind of fall out as much as I thought. So bear with me, some are a bit of a stretch. I'm only doing active players and obviously can't cover all of them. So let me know which ones I missed and maybe some suggestions for who I should take next time. This video has spoilers. I'm going to talk about character arcs in Stormlight Archive, Wheel of Time, First Law by Joe Abercrombie, Dune a little bit, not a big deal there, Lord of the Rings, Mistborn, The Song of Ice and Fire, Kingkiller, and Red Rising. There's not going to be massive plot things, but I am going to pick out characters and say why they fit. So if you haven't read those series, yeah, you might want to skip through some of this. Moraine from the Wheel of Time is a wizard-like character who guides a group of young, inexperienced protagonists to great heights. She's not afraid of breaking the rules and is a bit of an outcast, but everywhere she goes, she finds success. Who is this? It's obviously Chris Paul. And it's pretty obvious which team I'm cheering for in the NBA playoffs, so I gave Chris a nice comp here. On the flip side, Gavilar Colin is a character that we've grown to hate more and more. Initially, we thought he was a hero, but he's turned into more of a villain, a really despicable one. What NBA player is this? It's Kyrie Irving. He started his career giving LeBron James a title in Cleveland, hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history, but now is turned into a bit of a weirdo, and no one really likes him or is sure what his future holds. Kyrie's new teammate, Ben Simmons, is also a bit of an enigma right now, with a lot of injuries and just some general whining and immaturity. Ben Simmons is a good comp for Giselle Dan Luthar from the First Law. Giselle also suffers some injuries, whines a whole lot, but does find some success. We'll see what Ben's future holds. Back to my Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker is a great comp for Paul Atreides from Dune. Like Paul, Devin emerged in the desert as a bit of a chosen one at a young age and has already reached great heights. We'll see where he goes. Paul rose pretty high. Our opponents right now feature a star by the name of Luka Doncic. By the time this video comes out, that series may have been decided. Go Suns. They're struggling right now in Game 6. Luka is a great comp for Elaine Tricand from Wheel of Time because I don't like Luka very much. He whines incessantly to the refs. I'm sorry if you're a Luka fan. Luka is a very annoying player, but he's also a very good player and a very good-looking player. I mean, he's kind of like the face of the NBA as far as this young guy. A lot of people are fans of him. He's an attractive guy like Elaine. Elaine, obviously not a guy, but a very attractive woman who is very annoying throughout most of the Wheel of Time, but gets a lot done and ultimately finds success. Obviously, we can't do this video without talking about LeBron James. There's a lot of comps here. I'm just going with the obvious one. Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, the king. LeBron is obviously the king as well. Aragorn reaches the top. LeBron has as well. Debatable if he's the GOAT or not, but like Aragorn, LeBron does not have a lot of flaws. Joffrey Baratheon is one of the most hated characters in A Song of Ice and Fire and the Game of Thrones TV show. Trae Young is not one of my favorite NBA players. They're both kind of young, snooty characters who find success, but ultimately Joffrey does not do well. And, I'm not a big Trae fan. I don't believe in teams that are led by these young guards that don't seem to be super durable and just shoot a bunch of threes. We'll see if Trae can buck the trend, but right now I think Joffrey is a good comp. Another guard that I don't really believe in is Ja Morant. The Grizzlies just beat the Warriors by 39 points and led by as many as 55 points after Ja was injured. I don't think teams can field a player like Ja if he's their best player and expect to really have a ton of success in the NBA. I don't think you can get past the conference finals if your best player is someone like this. Ja's comp is Lift from the Stormlight Archive, a promising young character that slides around everywhere and is maybe a little bit annoying. I don't think Ja's that annoying. I think he's kind of a good guy, but ultimately Lift, maybe not an MVP. I don't think Ja is either. We'll see if, like Trey, maybe these guys can buck the trend, but that's my NBA theory. On the flip side, I think a player like Jason Tatum is exactly what you need to have success in the NBA playoffs. Jason's comp is Rand Althor, because like Rand, Jason came onto the scene, was immediately the chosen one for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics say that he's still 23 or however young he is, right? Like, this guy has a very, very bright future. And I don't know if there's too many more comps with Rand, but I think just like this general, Jason seems like a protagonist, a main character, like Rand is, obviously. So we'll see. Hopefully Jason doesn't start hearing voices and, getting into all of that, but good luck. Okay, if you've read the first law, you know that Logan Nine Fingers, when he goes into the Bloody Nine persona, is someone to get the heck out of his way. Similarly, Giannis is unstoppable at times. And while I think Giannis is a pretty good guy and Logan is not a good guy at all, when they go into this persona of unstoppableness, Giannis is a good comp for the Bloody Nine. No one can really stop him, including my Phoenix Suns last year. One of the faces of the NBA is, of course, Steph Curry, and one of the faces of Epic Fantasy is Kaladin Stormblessed, and I think they've got some similarities. Both are leaders of their crew. Kaladin is not necessarily a marksman, but he's really, really good with the magic that he uses, and Steph is the greatest three-point shooter of all time. I think both are main characters on their teams, so Kaladin is leading the Fantasy Splash Brothers. His partner in crime, Klay Thompson, is Legolas. I think this one is just too easy. Great shooters without like a ton of personality, as far as I know Klay. So that works for Legolas. Now, the Splash Brothers have a protege right now. If you followed the NBA at all, you know that Jordan Poole is an up-and-coming future Splash Brother. And Vin from Mistborn is the perfect comp here. Jordan was kind of discarded from the NBA for a few years before this year and previous year, where he's really had a reemergence, and he's an excellent magic user, three-point shooter like Vin. Both are very accurate with their marksmanship and have burst upon the scenes after a forgettable start. Sticking with the Warriors, the final piece here is Draymond. Draymond is Gimli from Lord of the Rings. Draymond and Gimli both talk a whole lot. They're both kind of funny. They're both very stout, defensive type players. They're both guys that you want on your team, but don't necessarily care to see across the court from you. Let's get another villain. Let's go Kevin Durant, the former Golden State Warrior, is Moash. He was previously part of the Bridge 4 Warriors. He has betrayed them, some Warriors fans would say. I think it's kind of up to NBA players to choose where they want to go, but there's some bad blood there. And Moash is kind of, obviously evil, right? And Durant has turned into a bit of an NBA villain. All of these players that join these super teams start to become disliked. Moash also joining the wrong team, becoming very powerful. Both have had some very serious injuries recently. I think it's not a bad comp. I struggled to find a good one for Joel Embiid. I'm going with Darrow from Red Rising. Both again had some injuries to kind of start their careers. Both, fixated on finding some glory. Joel just complained about not getting the MVP over Jokic. Darrow doesn't necessarily complain a whole lot, but he's kind of this like brooding male protagonist. I think Joel fits that as well. Darrow ultimately finds some success. Joel right now kind of mired in Philadelphia in this bad situation. We'll see what happens. The MVP over Joel was Nikola Jokic, and I think Perrin Ibarra from Wheel of Time fits him very well. Stout, soft-spoken character. You don't want to mess around with him because he is very capable. And I wish that it'd be perfect if Jokic was on the Timberwolves, but unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. But I think Perrin is a good comp for Jokic. Let's get another villain. I'm going James Harden for Littlefinger from A Song of Ice and Fire. Peter Baelish Littlefinger, his loyalties are very fluid, like James Harden, who has switched a lot of teams recently in pursuit of the elusive ring, like Peter Baelish's search for the Iron Throne or search for influence upon the rulers of Westeros. And Harden ultimately, like at this point, is he washed up? I don't know if his career is going to enjoy a renaissance. Everyone's kind of down on him after their exit from the playoffs without too much of a bang. Just a lot of whimpers here from Harden at this point in the career. And Littlefinger ultimately kind of goes out the same way. Jimmy Butler is a bully. He's a very effective leader, and he is ruthless. If you remember, he took over that Timberwolves practice that one time. And a good comp here is Kelsier from Mistborn. Kelsier, a very effective leader, gets a lot done, but is fine just kind of taking names and kicking butt and doesn't really care what anyone thinks about him. Zion Williamson, Leodan Brock from First Law, from The Age of Madness, Joe Abercrombie's second series. Both characters with a ton of potential, but just kind of dumb. And I don't want to call people dumb, but Zion making a lot of dumb decisions right now with his career, with all the potential in front of him. If you've read Age of Madness, you know that Leo kind of does similar things. He's got all the potential in the world, but is not an intelligent character. Hopefully Zion can get it figured out. I'm really rooting for him. He's a great guy, maybe, but right now not making good decisions personally. Adolin Colin, a very well-liked character around the league, around Roshar, hasn't really enjoyed a ton of success, hasn't really taken it to the very top level, but a pretty boy. And I think that Donovan Mitchell is a good comp here. On the Jazz Star has had middling amount of success. Everyone kind of likes him, seems like a good guy, but will he take it to the next level? Will he swear those ideals and become a Knights Radiant and win the championship? We'll see. Kawhi Leonard doesn't talk. Lan Mandragorian doesn't talk. I think they're great comps. Both very stoic characters. Lan in the Wheel of Time TV show has a little bit more to say. I think that's kind of necessitated by the medium. But Kawhi's a little bit weirder than Lan. Lan is a pretty, once you get to know him, he's a pretty solid guy. Kawhi just a little bit more strange than Lan, but I think the stoicness and just like their general effectiveness and power makes it a decent comp. Quoth is one of my favorite characters in fantasy. He is a young character, a very promising guy, very smart, a wizard at times, you could say. And ultimately, after some success and fame, he kind of fizzles out. And we see him, just as a bartender here, owning his own, well, he owns his own place, but he's lost his powers and he's just kind of telling his story. And Rajon Rondo comes to mind. He had a lot of success early in his career, a wizard on the court, very smart, smarter than most of the other players, cerebral. But now, what's he really doing? Not too much. His career is kind of faded. And it's kind of a mystery, I guess, what happened to Quoth. I think we kind of know what happened to Rondo. He can't shoot the 3-point shot, which is a bit of a problem in today's NBA. Russell Westbrook, another similar career arc like Rajon Rondo. And I'm going to go with Cersei Lannister for this one. The Cersei Lannister from the Game of Thrones TV show. Not really sure how George is going to write this out. But if you've seen the last season of Game of Thrones, the Cersei just sits around, sips her wine, does nothing, and ultimately loses. And Russell Westbrook at this point in his career is just sitting around, sipping his wine in LA and bricking 3-point shots like Rondo has. It's on a terrible contract and is killing his team like Cersei ultimately doomed the Lannister family. Marcus Smart, we need a tough fantasy character for Marcus, and I'm going to go with Avienda from The Wheel of Time. Both pretty likable characters, but, kind of came onto the scene a little bit late in the series. Marcus took a little bit to really, really establish himself. One Defensive Player of the Year. Wasn't super well liked initially coming into the league because of some controversy at Oklahoma State. But, established himself, and he's really fun if he's on your team. I think Celtics fans love him. Most other fans of the league don't really like going up against Marcus. I think Avienda kind of fits this. Steven Adams is obviously Rock from Stormlight Archive. I think this is the most obvious and correct comparison. And if you have issues with every other comp, that's fine. But Steven Adams is literally Rock. Kyle Lowry, I'm going with Tyrion Lannister, Tyrion the Tall. And Kyle is, obviously a shorter, diminutive character like Tyrion. Both very smart, both kind of bulldog characters, get their way, winning characters because of their smarts And I think this is another good comp. This is another good one. The Lopen from the Stormlight Archive, I'm going with Joe Ingles. Both are funny, both talk incessantly, both are probably annoying to their opponents. Wayne from Mistborn is Time Lord, probably just because of the nickname. It's perfect. So Time Lord is Robert Williams III from the Celtics. And final one for this episode, Dame $sign is Tom Maryland, the musicians in the league. I don't know if the comparison goes too much further, but both did have like a lot of success earlier in their careers. And at this point, we haven't really heard too much from Dame over the last few years. Tom, after a lot of success in Camelin, kind of goes into obscurity. He enjoys a late career renaissance. We'll see if Dame can get the same thing done. All right, let me know how these comps were. I know a lot of these are stretches, and I'm not the most knowledgeable on the NBA. I'm a big fan, but I don't know every little detail about players' lives. So if you want to tell me why my comp was wrong or give me better suggestions, I'm sure they're out there. Let me know. This was fun to do, and go Suns.